Hello, Farthinghoe Primary School. We're here in China's First Emperor and the Terracotta Warriors exhibition in World Museum in Liverpool. My name's Lucy Johnson and I'm from the exhibitions team here. So my job involves planning and organising temporary exhibitions.
Hi guys, my name is Marion. I work here as an assistant curator and I helped sourcing the images for the exhibition. I helped also to write the text for this exhibition.
Okay, so we're going to answer some questions from you now. The first question is from Leo and Molly, and they've asked, how were the Terracotta Warriors made? Well, making these life-size terracotta figures was obviously a huge challenge, and if you think they were made over 2,000 years ago, when they wouldn't have had all the technology we have today, it's amazing to think that they were able to make these really detailed sculptures. So experts who've looked at the sculptures and studied the area think that the artists who made them would have set up workshops really near to the emperor's burial site. So the different parts of the warriors were made separately. So the feet and the legs were made first, and they were made out of solid clay so that there's a really solid base because the figures are very heavy. And then the torso, the arms and the head were made separately, and they were hollow. And so once all the separate pieces were made, they were joined together. And then the ears, hair and nose were made separately and joined to the head. And then all the fine details on the face would have been done by hand using a bamboo stick or a tool like that. And so once they were constructed, they were left out to dry. And then they were fired in huge kilns and really high temperatures. And experts think that caves nearby to the emperor's burial site was where these kilns were, so they used these huge caves. And once they'd been fired and the clay had gone hard, they were taken out of the kilns and they were painted with painted in really bright colours. And so that's a little bit of information of how they were made.
So the next question is from Lauren and Grace. Why were the Terracotta Warriors made out of terracotta and not another material? So to answer your question, I just want to start by explaining the meaning of the word terracotta. Terracotta actually means baked clay or fired earth. So the warriors were actually made out of clay. Now clay is a type of earth which you can find very easily anywhere. So it was a cheap material to use, but it was also a very easy material to work with. In comparison, stone or metal, for example, were more difficult materials to work with, and they were also much harder to find in the natural environment. So as a result, they were more expensive to use. So the main reason why the Terracotta Warriors were made out of terracotta is because it was cheaper to use clay than stone or metal. However, wood was also a cheap material, so why did the Chinese not build the warriors out of wood? I think the explanation for this is because the emperor wanted his army to last forever, and he knew that if the warriors were made out of wood, they would actually rot away in the ground. So he made them out of terracotta because terracotta is cheap and it lasts. So the next question is from Shay, Maria and Jake. What did the first terracotta warrior look like? This is a good question. We don't think anybody knows what the first terracotta warrior looked like, but I can tell you that he probably did not look very handsome. The craftsmen who made the warriors had never made statues like these before, so they actually spent a lot of time experimenting to develop the right techniques. So they probably made quite a few warriors before they could make the ones that you see behind me.
So the next question we have is from Neva and Jessica. Are there any statues of women in the army? So no women figures have been found in the first emperor's burial site so far, but archaeologists have found some female figures from burial sites that belonged to emperors and rulers in the later Han Dynasty, which came after the time of the first emperor. So in our exhibition here in Liverpool, we have got one female terracotta figure, which is of a maid, which came from the burial site of Emperor Jing, and she's one of my favourite objects in the exhibition.
The next question is from Imogen and Rosie. Were the Terracotta Warriors based on real-life people? Nobody knows if the Terracotta Warriors were made based on real people, but the craftsmen were probably inspired by real people to make the warriors. In fact, archaeologists have found that all the warriors have different faces, and they think that the reason for this is because the emperor wanted his army to look like a real human army. So the warriors were all made to look different, and as a result, they all have different eyes, different noses, different mouths, and even different ears. So the next question is from Amelie and Sophia. How many people worked on building one terracotta warrior? Archaeologists think that at least 10 men worked on building one warrior. Altogether, we think that the emperor gathered about 1,000 people to build his terracotta army. And the workers were actually divided into more than 90 different teams. And each team was made out of 10 men who were supervised by one foreman. So altogether, 10 men built one warrior. And the next question is from Maggie and Lottie. How many warriors were made in a year? Archaeologists think that each team of workers made between 7 and 12 warriors every year. So in total, they made around 1,000 warriors in a year, and it took around 10 years to make the terracotta army.
Okay, so Sienna, Mika and Beth have asked, is the Golden Horse of Mowling all gold, or does it have a terracotta core? So the Golden Horse of Mowling, despite its name, is actually made out of bronze. It's gilded bronze, which means that there is a very thin layer of gold powder or paint on the exterior of the horse, but it's, as I say, it's actually made out of bronze. So the horse itself weighs 25 kilograms, and it's the largest gilded bronze horse that's ever been found. It's believed that it belonged to Princess Ping Yang, who was the sister of Emperor Wu. Okay, so we've got a question from Harry and Serena, who asked, how did you transport them, and did any of them break? So obviously transporting these really old and fragile objects all the way from China to the UK took an awful lot of planning and organising. So the Terracotta Warriors and the other objects in the exhibition, there's another 180 objects in the exhibition, they all travelled 5,000 miles from Xi'an in China to Liverpool in the UK, and they came by truck, plane, boat, and then another truck, so it was quite a journey for them. And that journey took over about a week to get here. So they arrived here in World Museum in Liverpool in January 2018. And so each of the warriors travelled in their own specially made wooden crates. And so they laid on their backs in the crates, and they were fixed in the middle at their feet and at their heads. And they were wrapped in really special materials. So they were wrapped in bandage called Tyvek, which is like a white bandage around them. And then they also had clear plastic around them, which looked a little bit like cling film. And then there was lots of other cushioning materials in the crate to make sure that they didn't move. So expert staff in China and in the UK were involved in the transport and movement of the objects. So it was all done very carefully, and all the objects arrived here safely in Liverpool. So our last question is from Bella and Marley, and they've asked how many warriors are in the museum. So we have 10 terracotta figures from the first emperor's burial site here in Liverpool. So we've got a cavalry horse, a horsekeeper, and we've got a general, 2 infantrymen, a military officer, a charioteer, and 2 archers, one standing and one that's seated. And then we've also got a terracotta stable boy. And so they're figures from the first emperor's burial site, but we've also got some others, like terracotta warriors, which are much smaller. So they're about 50 centimetres tall. And they were found in a burial site from an emperor or a general who was alive a bit after the time of the first emperor during the Han Dynasty. And so after the first emperor died, the tradition of burying terracotta armies with rulers and high status individuals carried on, so that the idea was the same, that they would protect them in the afterlife, but these warriors were much smaller. And none of the warriors that were found from that time compare at all in size and scale to the terracotta army of the first emperor. Okay, thanks very much for sending us your questions, and I hope you enjoyed listening to those answers and learning more about the Terracotta Warriors. and we'd love you to come and visit us sometime at the Well Museum in Liverpool. Okay, bye-bye.